activity that we'll be doing, this is a proposal that we have to draft. Okay. So I hope everyone has their notepad and pen. What we have to do is we'll be drafting a proposal to the manager of L&D department. Anyone, any idea what is L&D department? Okay, that's learning and development. All right. Anything related to the learning and development, that means the the part where you see the LMS, the deliverables, right? The teaching, the training modules. So all that is covered under L&D department. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to draft a proposal to a manager of L&D department. And who am I? I am the head of another department. Okay. So I will be writing on behalf of my team, stating the problems that we are facing in our department related to L&D. Okay. So there has to be a relation between your department and L&D, and you have to draft a proposal to their manager talking about the problems that your department is facing. And also you have to provide some solutions. So what you have to do is, I am trying to answer your all WH and H questions. Okay. So you being the head of one of the departments, all right, any other department other than L&D. Okay. And what you have to do is you have to write a proposal to the manager of L&D department. Okay. L&D is the learning and development department. Everything related to the training and the deliverables, the PPTs, or whatever study material, whatever it is, that is under L&D department. So you have to write a proposal to them stating the problems that your department people are facing with the L&D department, and plus the solutions that you can provide to them. All right, the structure would remain the same that we have already discussed about that. Remember the summary, then the introduction. What else after the introduction? What do we cover? So in the main body, you will state the problems and the viable solutions that you can provide related to those problems, right? And finally, the at last conclusion. So did we get a rough idea? You don't have to, be perfect. Whatever is coming to your mind, you understood the context, right? Everyone? So now it says that whenever you are writing a proposal or a report, any kind of stuff for the technical writing, what are the things that we need to see? So define the purpose that we have already discussed. So you will have to map this with the kind of writing you did. So right now you wrote a proposal. So were we clear with the purpose? What was the purpose of that proposal? To present the or to highlight the problems that my department is facing versus the L&D department, right? So that was the purpose. Now coming to audience. Now who was the audience for this writer? So can we write something which has a lot of technical jargon? Can we afford to write that, or do we need a very simple content? Can, because he is himself an employee to the organization, and he is also expert in the L&D department. So we can directly use the technical jargon, right? Okay. Now the third step would be decide what to leave and what to include. Now this means that whatever data you have collected. So before even writing the proposal, you will go ahead and do some kind of research. That okay, if I suggest a software, for example, what can be the probable problems? I mean, what can be the probable benefits? So you will go and research on that, right? So out of that research, which one you have to take and which you have to leave will depend on what thing? How will you decide that out of all the data that you have collected, which one will you consider? Now somebody is writing for the customer support, so there the profit should be in that direction. So depending upon the kind of problem you are highlighting and the kind of solution you are suggesting, you can decide which data to take and which one to leave. And finally, we organize the data. That's what we did, right? We wrote all the steps, we wrote the structure. So that's how you organize the data. Whatever data you have collected, you will also put them in proper headings. So it's not that you will get as it is, right? You will get a lot of data. You will have to decide out of that which data can be used for the introduction, which can be used for the problem, which can be used for the conclusion. So all that you have to decide, right? Okay. Now let's talk about the ethics. So what do we understand by this term, ethics? So how do you think this is related to technical writing? Is there ethics involved in technical writing? Plagiarism is one very important aspect of ethical writing. And what else? It could be, copying the content. That could be one of the problems. Then there could be a problem wherein you have used the content, you have referred to the content, but then you have not provided proper references to it, right? So that can again be a problem under ethics. So all that should be addressed properly. So let's see. See, there are some do's and don'ts that are given here. So it says do not focus on. Okay, so it says do not. That means these are the things you don't have to do. Number one, evading responsibility. That means running away from your responsibility. Okay, doing it just for the sake of it, and you are not at all interested in what what result it would give. So, for example, you are writing a case study or a project report. You are running away from the responsibility means that you have not taken proper WH questions, the answers you have not taken, and you have not paid attention to the exact objective of the thing. So that should not be done. Number one. Number two, misleading your readers. Now, can you tell me how, as a technical writer, we can manage to mislead our readers? How can that happen? So, for example, you were writing this proposal to the L&D manager, and you wrote something which was actually not there. The problem was actually not there. So, what did you do? You mislead the reader. That means you misled the manager of the L&D department. So, that's why the information has to be checked twice, right? And properly accurate clarity should be there so that it does not mislead the reader. Now, third says suppressing the important information. How does that happen? When we are not highlighting all the problems that we are facing. So maybe one of the major problems we left out. So that should not be. Is that clear? So not you cannot afford to have wrong information also, and you cannot hide any information also. So whatever problems are there or whatever solutions you are thinking, sometimes what will happen, you will think of good solutions, but then you will not write it in the proposal. Then that could be suppressing important information. Maybe that solution is a good one. So you have to double check, and then you should provide that particular advice or recommendation that you are thinking of, right? Then it says keeping in mind the fairness and respect. Now, how do we ensure that fairness and respect? How do we do that? Any idea? So fairness means we need to be impartial, right? And respect we understand. So how do we do it as a technical writer? How do we ensure this? So one is that you should have unbiased opinion. That means you should give the opinion of the crowd. You should not put your point of view. That could be fairness. How do we ensure the respect level? How do I, as a technical writer, where does this word respect fit in? See, you have to be in their shoe. You have to put yourself in the shoe of the customer, and you have to provide the information. So you should have proper respect to that, proper dignity. This is one. And number two, you should also give proper credit to whatever content you are using. That's also giving respect, right? So those are the two, three things that you have to follow. Okay, incorrect information we have understood, right? So we will not provide any information which cannot be proven by facts. So that should be avoided. So these are some of the things that we need to avoid. Now the next thing it says you have to give due credit. Now how do we do that? Complete and consistent documentation of your sources of information. So if you have a consistent documentation, complete information, what are the benefits? It will help our readers to locate the information and do take a follow up on research. So suppose somebody wants to refer your write-up. So it's very important that your write-up should be good enough that somebody else can refer to, right? So that's why it should have all correct information, all consistency should be maintained, it should be complete in itself, right? The second advantage could be it helps you support your position and recommendations as well as conclusion. So whatever, see, so if the information that you are providing is correct, if it can be supported by evidences, then you will be able to frame a statement which can be put in conclusion. For example, somebody here wrote about the problems that as a customer care team, your team is facing with L&D department. Now, if that problem is genuine, if you can provide the proper facts, maybe the screenshots or the screen grabs of the problems where you are facing, or the downfall of the sales that have come down because the customer support is not able to answer the questions. So in that case, if I have proper facts to it, I will actually be able to give a proper statement in the conclusion, right? I can actually write there that if you follow a proper training module, then we can actually increase the sale by say 10% or something like that. So that's
Yes.
why all the information that is correct and complete in itself will always help you to write things with dignity, with conviction, and with confidence. So that's what it will do. And finally, avoid plagiarism. Very important. I have told you again and again that for practice you can keep one of the free plagiarism tools available, online plagiarism tools that are available. You can just keep one of them on your system, so that whenever you are writing such stuff, you can just upload that document and check it. Okay. However, in the companies where you will be working, they have their own paid versions of plagiarism tools, and they will be checking around that, right? So from your end, you should make sure that you are not copying the content as it is. But just to double check, you can also use it on an online plagiarism, right? So those are the things that we'll be doing. Okay, now you have to also work on your style. Very important. Common elements good writing. That means the style, the formatting, everything has to be taken care of. Phrases have to be avoided. We have already discussed which writing contains phrases. Creative writing, right? So in technical writing, we will not be using the phrase. Okay, we have to avoid the misused words, right? The misspelled words. So the spellings, the confusing words, all that has to be taken care. You have to know the difference between accept and expect, right? So if you don't know, the entire meaning of the sentence would change. So talking something about the grammar part, right? So you have to be very careful on that. Uh, Try, in maximum situations to use the present tense and active voice, because it gives a more conviction to the sentence, a more energy to the sentence. So try writing more in present tense and in active voice, not in the passive voice, right? Okay, now see the sentence that is written here. The material about business application will demonstrate. You should avoid this, and in place of this, I can write the material about the business application demonstrates. So here it is more direct, and it gives a lot of confidence in the sentence. So that's how you should use it in the present tense. Try to use it. Okay. The other one is after reading this material, the board will determine. So this phrase, like, the words like will and all has to be avoided. Instead, we can use would. After evaluating this material, the board would determine. So these are some examples that they have given. So you can also, ensure that wherever you are using it, it should be proper present tense and active voice, and avoiding the words like will. Okay. All right. Also, you should minimize the use of gerunds. Gerunds, what are gerunds? The ing forms, right? So you should avoid them, because this actually has the scope of making your sentence ambiguous. So you have to avoid the ambiguity within the sentence, and that's why avoid using these verbs with ing forms, right? Okay, so that's why they are again and again saying that present tense should be used. It gives the writing a lot of energy. Be direct and use active voice. Now, these are elements and style. Some of them we have already discussed. For example, sentence structure to be simple. We know from the very first day that whatever sentence we'll be writing, we'll make sure that it's simple. Not a lot of words should be there. It should be keep it simple and short. Working on that principle, right? So that is what we have to do. If at all there is a compound sentence, what can you do? If there is a complex compound sentence, what should we do? Break it, or probably we can break it into a bullet points, right? For writing this paragraph on proposal, so the problem and solutions, they can be put, and in headings we can put bullet points, right? That's how you will make it simple. Okay, the second one, it says focus on general neutrality. Okay, any idea how do we make our content general neutral? How do we do that? Like, I don't want my write up to be gender specific. So how do I make sure that doesn't happen? So I'm not using he, she. Then what can I use? They, we. Can we use the user, the customer, the consumer? So those kind of designations, if you'll be using, it'll never come down to that neutral, that gender specific thing. Right? For example, you were writing the proposal, so you can always say the team members of sales, or you can say the sales team. You don't have to give he, she, or anything. So you can just give the entire designation with the team, right? So that's how you will make it gender neutral. Okay. Now talking about abbreviations, what is the basic rule that we have discussed again and again for abbreviation and acronyms? Anyone? For example, you want to use the word SOP, for example. So wherever it is coming for the very first time, There you will write SOP along with the full form in the bracket. And going forward, you can use the word SOP. So abbreviation, we are very much clear what we have to do. Now bullets and numbering, I guess this is also clear. Whenever you are giving a content which can be broken down into bullets or numbering, like problems, solutions, benefits, you should always try to put them in bullet points. Now that doesn't mean people just be very careful. I've seen the write-ups when I tell them to write bullets numbering, everything comes under bullets numbering. That's not the case, right? Just remember things like abstract, conclusion. These things doesn't have uh, bullet points. Okay, these are in simple one paragraph. But only where the main body part is there, where you have different headings, there you can afford to have the bullet points. I hope this point is clear. Okay. Now, talking about some other tools that we can use. So, these are very interesting tools that you can use. We'll see them in the word, how we use them. Talking about the first one, that's a sidebar. Any idea what a sidebar is? Okay, have you seen these textbooks wherein, at the side of the page, maybe on the left or right side, there is a rectangle or a square made, and then it is written, "Do you know?" or some highlighted facts. Have you seen that kind of stuff? That is called the sidebar. What is the function of it? When you want a particular text to be emphasized, okay, you want the reader to give it a proper focus, then you create a sidebar. Is that clear? What is the use of sidebar, people? For example, you are writing this case study for the pandemic. Now, let's say that you want to write some tips, do's and don'ts. Now, these are the tips that you want the reader to read it again and again. So it could be a repetition from the paragraph. Still, you want it to be highlighted, then you can put it in the form of a sidebar. Is this clear? The use of sidebar? Okay. Now let's see how you create the sidebar. Now, from where will I go and put the sidebar? Just have a look. This is the ribbon, the main ribbon that you see here. I will click on insert. Okay. So let me click on insert. Then the right hand side here, you find something called as text box. Can you see? Okay. Now under text box, you have something called as banded sidebar. Can you see? So there are different kinds of sidebar: Austin sidebar, banded sidebar, and then there are so many types. So whatever sidebar you want, you can have it. Okay. So I will go for the banded one. It's a simple one. So I will take this. Now see, automatically this whole sidebar is created. Let's see in the print preview form so that it is more clear format to it. Okay, I'll just put it in. So I will minimize this. Okay, is it visible now on one page? How the sidebar is? Now you can resize that also. For example, you need a smaller one, so you can just resize it like this. Here you will put the sidebar title. Okay, so for example, I want to write, "Do you know?" This is my title. So I'll put it with a question mark. Do you know? I hope this is visible to everyone. You can put this heading. Do you know? You can put it bold. Any resizing or format styling or anything that you want to do, you can do it here, right? And then finally, this is the place where you will put the text. So this could be a bulleted list also. It could be two or three, one paragraph, something like that. Anything which you want in the file. Okay. Now let me show you what is a footnote or an endnote. Now, what do we mean by it? For example, I'm writing the content and somewhere I feel that I want to explain this term. Okay. So, for example, I was just going through this and I found that I want to explain this ISL. So, apart from the abbreviation, I also want to explain something about this ISL. Now, so I will put my cursor nearby this word. Okay. And then I will go to, let me find out. All right, references. Now the tab will change. Top ribbon, you will find a tab called references. Is it visible on the screen, people? Okay. Now, when you click on references, you will find something saying insert footnote. Yeah. So you click on it, and then you get number one written here. See? Do you see it? I'll maximize the screen so that you are visible. Okay. Now see, I wanted to write something about ISL, right? So this one as a superscript is coming here. Can you see? So for example, here I want to explain that ISL is a standard or whatever I want to write. I'll write everything here. So now this is my footnote which is created. Okay. Now footnote is always created on the same page where you have that term. Okay. So for example, I want to create one more footnote. So let's say I want to create it somewhere, uh, gestures. So I want to create here. So I will put the cursor here and I will say insert footnote again. So now number two. Can you see the subscript has changed? So now I can write something about gestures. So gesture is a kind of non-verbal communication. Okay. So whatever I want to write, I'll write it here. Okay. Okay. This much I have written. Now what's the use? If I click on this, uh, okay, so I will reach actually to the place where it is. Or if you click on this, you will reach to the footnote. So you can go to and fro. So if you click on this, you reach to the footnote where it is. Okay. Now here from here also, it's written next footnote. So you can go to the next footnote. See, it came to. So the navigation is also possible. So if it is a very long document you want to see again and again, so you can just click on this. It will take you to the portion where the exact thing is, and then it can lead you here also. So this is the portion where you see the footnote. I hope it is visible to everyone. Cross reference as in the link. Okay, let me see if it works here because it will work only when I have the proper links to refer. Let me see. See, did you see? I clicked on cross reference. It is asking me, where do you want to refer? Have you seen? So it's asking reference type and insert reference to. So whatever reference type is, you will have to give. So either it is an endnote or footnote or a heading. So for example, I want to go to a heading. Now it will also ask which heading. So I have given abstract, right? Now I say insert. Okay. Now see, it has created a cross reference here. So now here. See, so it is creating your cross reference to that particular part. So this is actually inserting the text. So what is done apart? I mean, other than across the world to bridge this word, instead of this, it is giving me the reference to the abstract. That's how it is working. Uh, okay, so now we are clear on footnote. Okay, we were on footnote. Now talking about the end note. Now the difference between footnote and end note. Footnote is always created at the end of the same document. So for example, if you wanted to create a footnote for ISL, it will be created on the same page. However, if I create the end note, it will be end of the entire document. Okay, so let's try to create a footnote for some text. So let's see if I want to create a. So I'll go on the second page, and maybe I will create a footnote for transfer based translation. Okay, so I'll put my cursor here. Okay, I will go on references and I will say insert endnote. So endnotes are always in the numeral letter. Okay, the Roman letters. You can also change it if you right click. You have all the options here. So you can change also, but by default it will always be in Roman numerals. So for example, here I will give about the transfer based whatever I want to. Okay, so I had this text and I gave it. Now this is created at the very end of the document, not on the same page. Then you will reach to the place where I created it. So I created it here. So it the cursor came back to that place. Right?
Mhm.
Clear, people? End note and footnote. If you are trying it, you can try it right now if you want to. Okay. Anyone who is trying it can do it right now so that you understand. So see, this one is there. When I click, I can actually go to that place and I can navigate. See, it brings me down to the end note. If I want to go back, I can again click here and I can go to the place where it was within the text. So this to and fro navigation is possible for footnote also and for endnote. The
Mhm.
difference is clear, I hope. What is the difference between footnote and endnote? So now we are clear on footnote, endnote, cross reference. Yes, we'll do it once again, and sidebar, right? And figures and tables. So all the tools are clear. All right. So these are the tools that you can also use when you are making your assignments, so that you can have a proper presentability to your document. All right. So what is redundancy? How do we define that? Okay, redundancy means the duplicacy of the data. Okay, the repetition of data. So there could be some times when there is a repetition. So how do we avoid that? By putting things in bullet points. So for example, if you have those pointers that you want to explain, you can instead put them in bullet points. So like that, as a technical writer, you'll always remember that, okay, these are the points I've already covered, and I do not have to duplicate out by mistake. Also, if there is so because you have put it in bullet points, you will always remember that you are not repeating the data. Is that clear? How do we avoid the redundancy? Now, talking about the accuracy, now once you are done with all the review cycles, so for example, when you made the first draft, you got it checked by by your peers, and then by the structural change checked by the reporting manager or the quality team. Now, what happens is when you prepare the final edit, that means whenever you have put all the feedback on the first draft, and now your final thing is ready, now you have to emphasize on that. So by emphasizing means that you have to double check, triple check that final edit. Final edit would be the one which will be just before it gets published or it is sent to the client, right? So there you have to make sure that you are proofreading the entire thing on the basis of grammar, focusing on grammar, on what else, on your spellings, right? So the structure and all would be checked in the first draft. However, the final presentability in terms of grammar and spelling would be checked in the final edit, which we call it as proofreading. Okay, now these are some of the you can say techniques or strategies that you can always use to make your text more presentable, and also avoiding it to be obsolete. So you should have always the updated version of language that we are using, right? So these are some
Mm.
of the phrases that you can avoid. For example, instead of using all of, we can just use all. So instead of saying all of these things, you can just say all these things, right? For example, the other one is as to whether. So as to whether is obsolete now. Instead, we just can use the word whether, right? Again, the same thing at the present moment in time. So many words not required. Just we can write now. Hmm. For a very long time, we don't need it. We can just write since, right? So, like you can say that the company has been in profit since 2 years. So, from a very long time or something like that, we don't want to write. The fact that is not required. We can just use the word that. So, this is, you can, one more thing that you see here. Is there anything that you observe here? I mean, apart from putting it in the new smart way of putting it, there is one more benefit of using the right hand side phrases and not the left hand side. Can you observe that? What is the benefit? So grammatically, it is correct to use both the versions, but we are trying to use the right hand side version. There are many reasons. One of them is that this is a smarter way to use. There is one more reason. Can anybody manage to identify what is that reason? Yes, apart from simple and direct, can you see the word count decreases? So for now, instead of using all of, there were two words. Now I have managed to put it in one word. As to whether, I have three words versus one word. So the word count decreases because everything plays around the word count. Remember, we were discussing that day that being a technical writer, it is all about word count, right? So the more efficient way would be using less words and more explanation. All right. Now, talking about the conciseness, this particular thing we have already covered once. Remember these points? We already covered it in the conciseness. Remember, your plans define your end result. Quickly give me what was the meaning of this one? The first one. Your plans define your end result. Collection of data that you are doing should be
Yeah.
directly mapping with the objective, right? With the kind of data that you will be drafting. End result means the conclusion that you will be giving. So the overall conclusion that will come out, the data collection should be based upon that, right? Okay, now the
Right.
second one, your future plans should be in sync with the current plan. We did this one also, this point. So you remember the heading that we can cover about future recommendations, right? So suppose
Yeah.
you have written something about an app and you are saying that in 6 months you will have an update of this app. So whatever
Mm.
you are putting in future study or a future scope, it should match with the current one.
Mm.
Otherwise, it will be like putting wrong information, right? So that should be feasible to the current one. Yes. Now display a goal-oriented approach that we all know. whatever is the purpose, you have to write your article in that way only. For example, if you are writing a proposal highlighting the problems, then your entire thing should be related to the problem and the solution. So goal oriented approach. Okay, and research and display only essential information. That means related to the objective. Okay. Now this is a structure talking about technical writing. Okay. Now anyone who understands so there are three, rather four entities. One is sender, one is receiver, then the topic and text. So how do we explain this triangle? So when talking about the technical writing, who would be the sender? The writer, right? So we all will be the senders, right? Now talking about the receiver, who will be the receiver people? The audience, the end user, right? For whom you are writing. Okay. Now what is one thing which is common between both of them? The topic, right? The kind of topic and the entire text. That is why the body is denoting the text part, the body of the triangle, and the tip is denoting topic, because topic is something which is related to sender also and receiver also. That means both of them should understand the same meaning of the topic. Are you getting this point? Yeah. And what will happen if both of them does not have the same understanding of the topic? Then what will happen? So, for example, you had to write a product manual for the customer. Now, customer has this understanding that when I will read this manual, I will understand how to operate this microwave oven. But when you wrote the inner technicalities of the entire microwave oven. That what is the micro, the chip that has been used, or the microprocessor has been used, or the internal circuitry that has been made. So you also wrote it from the point of view of the product. But what is the gap here? What is the gap? What is the problem in this write-up? I have written it. I'll repeat what I said. So there was this product manual for the microwave oven. Now the reader was expecting that he will get to know about the microwave oven. Okay, but as a writer, you wrote more about the internal circuitry of the microwave oven. You wrote about the circuits that have been used, the microprocessor that has been used. So you also wrote it about the product only. But that is what is the problem in the entire write-up, and how to process this whole microwave will not get any idea about what you have written, right? So this will be a problem. That's why this is a triangle made with the tip talking about the topic. That means sender and receiver should have the same perception for the topic. I hope this diagram is clear. Now talking about the illustrations. Now what do we understand by the word illustration, people? What is the meaning of illustration? Okay, the examples. Okay, the examples, or you can say the tables, uh, every kind of pictorial representation. So all those are the correct are the illustrations. That is the mode of data which explains the thing better. For example, when you make a table, you are actually trying to explain a thing in a better way rather than writing it in a paragraph, right? Or if you make a pie chart or a line graph, so all that is been the purpose to make all these things are to represent those things in a better way, right? So that's why technical writer considers tables and illustrations as a part of the document, not an ornament. So what do we understand by this first point? That it should be the part of the document, not as an ornament. It is essential, and it's not that for the sake of it you just put one or two diagrams because somebody told you that as a writer you have to have some illustration. It should be the part of the entire document. That means in every heading except abstract and conclusion, in every heading there should be, wherever possible, an illustration to explain the thing, right? So that would be the part of the entire document. They actually complement the writing. That means they will always put an added effect. It will not be like, just for formality. It will be the part of the whole document. And these are not supposed to be added only at the end. So for example, you just thought that, okay, I will put it one or two figures at the end and that's it. No, for all the kinds of part of the data that you are drafting, you should have some of the illustration. Now illustration could be any. It could be an example, it could be a table, it could be a figure, anything. Okay. Last point says, as a technical writer, you have to think that how best can you convey the idea. So that we have already discussed, that using those tools, all those tools that we have discussed, and many more that we'll be discussing, the entire objective is to make the audience clear about the concept, also making your content presentable. And it should look that whatever illustration or tables you have used is a part of the document. It should not be put in forcibly. For example, let's say you did a research on this proposal thing and you got two, three figures. Now you said, okay, because I have to put some illustration, maybe I'll put this. And it is not making any sense. Maybe it is not relating directly to the topic. Then will it make sense even if you have the figures? No. Why? Because it is not mapping with the objective. So whatever data you want to put, whatever tables you want to put should be directly related to what we are trying to tell to the readers. Okay. Now, as a technical writer, you should be consistent. We have been talking about this, being consistent. That means headings, styling, your data should be justified, right? So all that formatting, styles, and everything should be consistent. You should make sure that you are using all those features. Abbreviations, symbols, so how to use them, the rules that we know, all that should be used. Spellings and punctuations, very, very important, people. Maybe you think that it's a very trivial thing, and maybe I'll that's only a small thing. Okay, fine. But then the spellings, the grammar, the syntax is the major part of your technical writing, and you have to take care of it. Okay. Now, talking about some of the pointers, keep in mind your readers, very, very important. Always you are getting this kind of stuff throughout your course, that whatever is your reader, whosoever is your reader, you have to give that kind of knowledge to him. Keep in view the specific purpose of this. Now, if you are writing a proposal, the kind of language that you should use should be the way the proposal looks. For example, it should be like this, that the recommended solutions, I propose the following solutions, like this. So you should have the language in that way, which directly convey what we are trying to write, a proposal or a report or a case study or whatever. Ensure that every part of your write-up contributes to the basic write-up. That means the subheadings that you have. For example, you have introduction. Under introduction, you have, let's say, three, four headings. So, what is business management? What are the roles and responsibilities? So, all these headings should actually map with the main heading. It's not that you deviate from the topic only because you wanted to increase the length. You just deviated from the topic. Everything that you are writing should directly or indirectly relate to the main topic. Focus on specific single concrete words. Very important. We are again and again talking about simple language, usage of words. Very important. Familiar language that cannot be misinterpreted. So do not use complex sentences. Do not use ambiguous sentences. Otherwise, the entire meaning would change. Right. So that has to be taken care. What else? Giving the objectives, very important. In your write up, you should mention that what is the objective of this write up. For example, when you are writing the proposal, so in the cover letter, when we send the proposal, in the cover letter means the email body that you are writing, you should always mention that, okay, this is the draft that I am sending you. This is a proposal that I am sending you because of the problems that we are facing, or so on, whatever. So all that, the objective should be very clear from all the writers that you are writing. Informing them. Again, information to the end user is very important. No phrase is nothing but information. So the entire objective is evolving around this information. Checking their understanding. So, when you know who the audience is, if it is a layman or an expert, using that kind of language, that's called checking their understanding. Making your work presentable. How do we make our work presentable? We have been discussing it from so long. How do we make our work presentable, people? By presentable, we doesn't mean that, we don't mean that you have to use those kind of flowery font sizes. Huh? Let's use monotype Corsiva because it looks very nice. That is not the aim. Okay, by presentability, it means that everything should map with the objective and should make the people understand what we are trying to tell them. Working on the overall layout, again, the formatting thing we are talking about. So we should focus on planning, that is collection of data. Clarity, what is it? The grammar part, right? Simplicity, simple sentences. Word choice, the vocabulary that we are using. Active voice, and the entire writing process. So I have to identify my audience. I have to know the purpose. I also have to know my material. Okay, by material, what do you understand? when I say know your material, what do we understand by the word material here as a technical writer? So understanding the product could be in the case of product manual. What about when you are writing a report? Then how do you, what material is there when you are writing a report or a case study? So all the research that I have done, yes, all the collection of data that I have, that is called material. Okay. So for a technical writer, material means the raw material that you will be using. So as an architect uses raw material, right? So the same way you use the raw material. Now, what is a raw material for a technical writer? All the information that you gather, right? Now, so far, only when you will be writing the case study, I guess you are using that research. Huh? So you should have a lot of research done. Then only please write anything, any of the assignments, because then only it will make sense. Because researching is very, very important. Researching on the data that on the topic that we have discussed, collecting the information, collecting tables, data, all that is very important. And that is what they are saying, knowing your material. Understand the task in hand, that means knowing the objective, also knowing what you are writing. So you should be very much clear on that. Organize your thought and material. So whatever material you have, whatever thought process is going on in your mind, it's not that it should remain in your mind. It should come out in the form of pointers, right? So that's what we'll be doing. Budget adequate time to write, review, revise, and edit. Now, see, there is an entire cycle in the technical writing. So, whenever some work is assigned to you, you should take that buffer time, which contains the time for planning, for writing, for then post writing, the review, again revising based upon the feedback, and finally the final edit. So, you have to take the buffer time for all the things, not only the writing part. Is that clear? So, that is very important. And that is how the budgeting of the entire project is also done. So, for example, a project comes to your company, so they will be budgeting from the point of view of the technical writer, taking in concern with all the stages that you have. Okay.